Okay, so everyone's here. Welcome again to 9 Things We've Learned About Great Coaching from the Coach Mentor podcast. Rob Holmes has been doing this outstanding podcast, interviewing leading coaches and experts in the coaching industry from around the world. And what episode are you up to, Rob?
I think I'm recording 33 today and 34 tomorrow.
Fantastic. And the quality and caliber of people you're interviewing, it just continues to grow. And it's very exciting, some of the people you've got access to these days. Well done.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, it's cool.
I don't know if everyone online today has been able to access the last webinar we did. It was just recorded, but it was the 9 things we learned about running a great coaching business. So if you haven't had a look at that, it's on our YouTube channel, or it's on the Accelerate part of our website.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so let's begin. We've kind of gone through the podcast and picked out the gems that we've heard from different coaches and summarised the 9 top things that we've learned about great coaching. So let's begin. So, Rob, you're going to say something?
I was just going to say the 9 points fall into 3 main categories, and the first 3 we're going to cover now are really about how a coach can understand their client better and what's going on for them during a coaching session.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. So the first, Rob, do you want to take us away?
Yeah, sure. Jeffrey Schwartz in episode number 17, I think it was, he's an amazing neuroscience guy out of the US, California, and one of the big points that he made in his book and made in the podcast was that we are not our brain. We are the sum total of our experiences, our body, our interactions, and from our company's point of view, we would involve the spirit, we would involve the mind, the heart, will, emotions, and everything else. What Jeff did in that podcast was talk about the neurology of change, the way change takes place in the brain, and the kind of catchphrase he used there was neuroplasticity. So if any of you saw Todd Sampson's How to Change Your Brain series on the ABC, one of the points that he made was that change is always possible, even when it's impossible.
Take my turn. Fantastic. This is a really interesting thing that we learned from Grant Sisulu and Marvin Oka in their book M-Braining, and Rob got to interview to Grant specifically. And the thought is that not only do we have a brain in our head, but we have a brain in our body as well. So one of the interesting things that these guys talk about is identifying different intelligences that are driven from different parts of our body, because studies say that we have neurology around our heart and around our stomach as well as our brain. There are neurons that are formed in those places as well that drive lots of intelligence. So the question I'd love to ask you, if you could just type into the chat box, is can you think of language patterns that maybe you just use off the cuff, but kind of have reference to a body part, primarily a heart or your stomach or your chest, that kind of drives a knowing or an emotion. So, I've got such a heart of love for that person, or I just get this sense in my gut, I know what to do, or something like that. I'm wondering if you can think of an example of language that has reference to either stomach or heart that you may use, and just because it's common language, haven't really kind of thought about what could be behind that language, or why we have such common language in our vocabulary. Anyone got any examples?
I'm thinking of the accountant that you were working with that was taught to present everything visually, but he needed to be listening to his gut instinct about how to reach his clients.
Oh, well, 100%. He'd kind of been taught the only intelligence was the logical, rational intelligence, and never really checked in or given any attention to his heart or his stomach, what it was kind of saying to him. But Grant would say, well, that's a really important intelligence,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, I found it really fascinating just seeing how much language refers to courage, kind of coming from the gut, and compassion coming from the heart. And it's not a coincidence that we use that kind of language, because that's actually where that intelligence is being driven from. So I
Mm.
suppose the key theme for so much great coaching is to listen, and specifically listen to your body. Your body knows. Your body knows what's happening, and not just your head, but listen to your three brains. Um, so I mentioned the importance of language patterns. So observing how you are talking, and what body part maybe you're giving reference to, or when you're coaching a client, what body part they're giving reference to, and helping them to check in and fully listen to that part, to their heart, to their gut, to their head. And then one other really interesting thing was how to integrate these intelligences, so to have three brains operating as one, working together. So great breathing exercises, even swallowing, even getting something from your head down to your stomach, uh, swallowing thoughts, swallowing as you process information, helping your gut access what your head's thinking about. Lots of cool stuff from Grant there.
One of the interesting things I think we just need to keep in mind is that the gut and the heart brain don't have words, and the information from them comes up into the right hemisphere, which also doesn't have words. So we're dealing with somatic intelligence. We're dealing with feelings, sensations, textures, touch, taste, wordless things, pictures even. And so teaching our clients how to tune into that is
Yeah,
important.
great. And we got some great examples here from the listeners. My heart is heavy. I feel it in my gut. Thanks, Craig. I just felt sick about it, Kylie. My sense in my heart that it was wrong. Yeah, absolutely, Geraldine. That's exactly what we're kind of talking about. So that's common language that we use, and the point is, yeah, that actually is being driven from your gut or from your heart. So check in and actually listen, rather than just try and process everything in your head. Great. Let's move on. Number three, Rob, dealing with the fear of being the imposter.
This was an amazing interview. This was Patrick Wannis in episode 30. He's a celebrity coach, and he laid out the top 5 things that he runs into with celebrities, and that's a very broad term. It's anyone famous, politicians, business leaders, CEOs, people in Hollywood. But the imposter syndrome was number one, and this is the incredible sense that people have that they are going to get caught, that their success isn't really due to their own effort, that it was a fluke. And research across the USA and the UK has found out that 70% of people, and therefore 70% of your clients, will have experienced the imposter syndrome, and 30% of people experience it regularly. So that's a fair chunk. The issue here is that we have nothing to compare ourselves with when it comes to others. So we default as human beings to comparing ourselves with others, and that default is impossible because you don't know what it's like to be someone else. You don't know what it's like to have taken the time to do what someone else did, and nobody knows what your journey is. The other issue is that the more successful you become, the more prone you are to fall into the imposter syndrome, because if you have this going on in your life, the better life becomes, the less you feel like it owes itself to you. And so one of the issues that Patrick faces is to help his clients to see, and we want to learn how to help our clients see, that they're just like everybody else. Everybody struggles with this issue. It's perfectly normal. And what we'll do is take them to take responsibility for their behavior, to realize they have more choice, to live above the line, to laugh at their intimidators, and laugh at life and learn to take humor again. The other thing he raised, though, which is interesting about celebrities, is that they have hangers-on, and people in business have that too. We've got maybe some middle management, or we've got some staff that are there that aren't pulling their weight and so forth. And dealing with the hangers-on is something that people with imposter syndrome don't like doing. And as coaches, we may be called upon to sort of have a go at.
I reckon this imposter syndrome is really common amongst coaches as well. Like, just type into the box. I won't raise any names, but just a simple yes or no. Have you ever felt like a fake as a coach, especially starting out your journey? I know that a big part of the coaching industry, because there's no barriers to entry. It's not like you've come out with a psychology degree and it's recognized everywhere. You're kind of putting your hand up as a coach with some amount of training and some amount of experience, and say yes, work out how later, kind of backing yourself in. Often the real challenge as a coach is to feel like you're not a fake and that you can back up what you're doing. So, yeah, great. I mean, it's such a common thing. Everyone is kind of saying, yes, I felt like a fake. So helping your clients kind of work through this, it kind of starts with, processing this in your own life and dealing with your own feelings around this, the need to compare yourself with others and walk with this kind of integrity. Anything else to add on that, Rob?
No, that's good.
Great. So the next category of topics that these fall into is tools and techniques. And the first one we want to look at is that people are not their behaviour. So such a great coaching tool and idea with so many implications. So Ian Snape was really clear about this in episode 15. And his whole focus in coaching is to differentiate behavior from intent. So I'm not sure whether coaches you do this well or do this often, but typically we label and judge ourselves and others by our behavior. And Ian would say, well, no, you've got to separate the intent from the behavior. People are not their behavior, they're just trying to meet a need. So if we can identify the positive intent, then we got a chance at changing the behavior to connect with that intent in a much more resourceful way. So it kind of takes the whole judgment out of it, and it kind of takes the whole need to fix the behavior. It's serving a purpose. So Ian referred to a process called end-step reframe. Have any of you coaches heard of end-step reframe before? Just type a yes or no in. No, so not many have heard of end-step reframe. It's a term from NLP, but basically end being any number of steps, walking a person through this process. So Ian identified this great coaching tool to walk a person through identifying the positive intent and redesigning a congruent strategy that basically says, it starts with really checking in with your subconscious and involving your whole body, your whole conscious and subconscious mind in this process. Starting with identifying, asking yourself, okay, well, what is the positive intent on this behavior? Because often we don't have conscious awareness of it. We just do it and we judge it and we think it's terrible and has no value. But ask yourself, and then ask yourself if you were to be able to come up with a more creative solution. Rob alluded to before, the whole process of coaching is giving more choice. And if we have more choice, we choose better things. So Ian kind of walks through this process of combining conscious and subconscious to get a better strategy that still meets the need. So if you'd like some more information about end-step or how to apply that in a coaching setting, let me know after the webinar. I can certainly give you some more information about that. Number 5, the two sides of peak performance, Rob.
Yeah, again, this Ian Snape's quickly becoming a cult hero at Frazer Holmes, but this is another thing that we learned from him, and no doubt in the future you'll see that we're doing more work with Ian. There are two sides to peak performance, and part of what he said in episode 15 was that we really need to work with clients to make sure that they have well-formed outcomes. Often people who are pursuing high performance have defined their goals, or they've defined some steps, but they don't have clarity around what the outcome would look like. So if you stopped for a minute and just said to them, when you have goal X, what will it look like? Oh, well, it will look like this. And when you have that, what will that give you? Describe that world to me and upload how it feels, how it seems, how it smells, how it tastes. Give me a three-dimensional handle. And when you run a client through that, you very quickly realize, oh, that they haven't defined the outcome very well at all, because that picture's very blurry for them. Get them to work on a better defined outcome and a better one and a better one until they say, okay, here's the outcome I'm actually after. Part of the journey in that process, Ian said, was to build high-performance states. And this is something that's going to come up in episode 34 with Peter Knight, who's a golfing coach. We talk about high-performance states. There's a number of processes to building high-performance states, but if you think about a circle on the ground and you get your client to step into that circle and upload everything they need, past, present, and future, to accomplish a state. It might be peace, it might be power, it might be the ability to speak in public, everything that they need to accomplish the outcome that they've just described. One of the things you've heard from us and that you'll hear in that episode is state is everything. If you can control your state, you can control your outcomes. So the way we say that is state is king. If you can help a person maintain or develop a new state, then they're going to control the outcomes that they get. And we just love that idea. We've seen it in sport, we've seen it in business, and we've seen it in marriage. So I think it has applicability right across.
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of just simplifies the coaching process and says it's all about being very clear and measurable about what you want, and then who do you need to be to get it? What kind of state would give you access to that outcome? So those two things go hand in hand and really simplify so much of the coaching process. I love the question around well-formed outcomes. How would you know that you've got that? What would you be seeing? What would you be hearing? What would you be feeling that proves to you that you've got that outcome? So again, that's kind of the measurable piece of it.
Again, I think there's a little bit of NLP there. There's a pattern that you can learn, and again, at the end, happy to give you some information about how to get that.
Yeah, patterns around circle of excellence, like you spoke about. But one of the cool things about Ian is, when he talks about patterns and scripts in terms of NLP, he really discourages coaches from actually using them in a coaching setting. That's all about learning the process, and then you can apply that with flexibility and really serve your client by being present. So number 6, the power of clear intention, and specifically getting off autopilot by Kay Lindley. So this was episode 22. We've made reference to conscious versus subconscious a lot of the time. And again, Kay kind of talks about the fact that so much of what we do is driven out of an auto response. So, only 10% of our day is driven out of the conscious mind, where we're deliberately making choices. The rest of the stuff is happening is just auto-programmed responses. So not being aware of why we're doing what we're doing, we just kind of do it. So the power of getting off autopilot, and as a coach, using clean language to understand what's actually happening for the client without assuming, without putting your map onto them, really using tools that understand what is underneath the surface. When I say clean language, does anyone have an idea about what that means in coaching? What is clean language in coaching? I'll give you a moment to type that into the question box. Raw honesty from Craig. Raw honesty is fantastic, but that's not clean language, not how they refer to it anyway.
Penny Tomkin and Peter Lawley are the founders of Clean Language Coaching.
Okay.
If you may have heard of them.
So it doesn't look like there's much idea about clean language. So this is really cool. It's the idea of being able to coach using a process that hears none of your client's story. So it removes any opportunity to impose your thoughts, and just really helps a client go beneath the surface and get in touch with whatever is happening for them. The best way of doing that is the use of metaphor in coaching. So we had this fantastic experience in Hobart when we were learning about clean language and process by seeing the power of metaphor. We're so invested in metaphor, but we're not clear of the metaphor we're using. They're below the surface. So, for instance, this exercise was done with us where we had to grab a handful of coins and arrange them on the floor in front of us to represent our family. We could arrange them in any order, stack them, put them in circles, whatever. And then we were told to kind of look at the coins as though they were our family. So kind of invest our thoughts and emotions and feelings towards these people. And then whoever was presenting kind of walked around the room and just trod on some people's coins and flicked some people's coins out of the way and just messed up their representation. And there was kind of this collective gasp from the room. It's like, you've just trodden on their family. How can you do that? And it was just such an incredible experience because they were just coins, but those coins had very quickly taken on the embodiment of the relationships and the care and the heart of those family members. So all that exercise was done to show us how invested in metaphor we are. And as coaches, if we can help a client elicit the metaphor they're using and develop empowering metaphors, that helps them get out of autopilot and take control of their space and get clearer about what they want and how they're going to get that. So anything to add on that, Rob?
One of the things I like to think about, if you think about someone who learned to drive an auto, then all of their driving, all of their autopilot systems are driving an automatic car. But you can take that same adult and teach them how to drive a stick shift, teach them how to drive manual. Now they're going to have to download or put inside themselves a whole new set of programs, and they're consciously taking control of that system. So clean language and metaphorical coaching does the same thing. It's the landscape of the soul. You're getting inside and wandering around on purpose to say, do you like what's going on in here or do you want to change it?
Fantastic. Thanks, Rob. And that gives us a chance to make what is internal and unexpressed, we can make that explicit. And once it's explicit, then we can change it or use it. So the third category that these 9 fall into is the philosophy of coaching. And the first is the philosophy of no behaviour management. Rob?
Now this was one of our favourites. It was Jaemin in episode 20 and had a fascinating time. We actually had a discussion about which one of us would do this one because obviously Jaemin was the person being interviewed. But in episode 20, we talked about how behaviour management coaching is really not going to work. And the reason for that is it's a bit like picking apples off a tree in order to heal the tree or kill the tree. Behaviour is the result of beliefs. The analogy that Jaemin used, and you will have heard this before, is the factory producing boxes that have the left-hand side missing. And behaviour management just says, let's put sides back on the boxes. Well, no, let's go inside the factory, find out why you keep producing boxes without left-hand sides, and now that you want them with the left-hand sides on them, let's change that. So we get to an underlying belief, and it's running on the assumption that people work perfectly. They're not broken. So in psychology and counselling, the assumption is they're broken and they need to be fixed. What were you going to say, Jaemin?
Oh, I was just going to say it'd be great to hear from the coaches. What do they understand by that statement that people work perfectly? What do they think it means? Because it is, just type that in the boxes, coaches, because it is something that has become a major part of our coaching philosophy, and an essential part to great coaching is this whole idea that people work perfectly. Just give you a couple of seconds to write in what you think that statement means.
While you're typing it in, and I'm not going to ignore the feedback, I'll just say that we really want to deal with the core issues and not the symptomatic issues that keep turning up. And I personally keep getting very tempted to deal with symptoms when I'm coaching someone because it's what the client tends to manifest. They want to tell you what's going on in their life and they want to tell you what their problems are. And those are all symptoms usually. So it's just very tempting to get in there instead of diving down to the core issue.
Okay, great. So we've got some people say people work perfectly in a perfect world. That's not quite the philosophy. Live according to their experience as to what is normal. Again, not quite capturing the essence of how this statement works. People are working directly to the thing that they have. So the system is working really well. Great. They've created strategies that serve them to keep them safe and meet 6 core needs. Sure. So they've kind of created the results that they're getting. Great answer. So, you're right. It's kind of the results they're getting are the exact results they've designed their system to produce. It's not coincidence or broken. It's exactly what they should be expecting. Of course, that's what's happening. Yeah. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. One of the things I love hearing you say in your example coaching is, of course you produce that outcome. Of course you would. Of course you'd make that choice.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun when a person's so perplexed about why they're doing it or how judgmental they are. It's like, oh, yeah, no, of course. And you'll keep doing that. That's exactly what you should expect. Don't be surprised. There's no point judging it or trying to change it. If you want a different result, change the factory, not the box.
Yeah. So the last point there is you may have heard the GROW model. If you haven't, feel free just to Google it and have a look. It's a very, very popular coaching model. Our contention with it would be that the GROW model is largely used for behaviour management, especially in organisations and business coaching. And so we'd like to encourage you to start with GROW by all means, but then move beyond the GROW model into what do people believe and how can they change what they believe? Change the factory.
Beautiful. So number 8 is the importance of emotional intelligence. I'd be interested to see some of the definitions of emotional intelligence. What do you think, coaches? What does emotional intelligence mean to you? As we have a look at the 8th thing that we've learnt from the Coach Mentor podcast. This comes from Belinda McGuinness, episode 9. Is it a familiar term, emotional intelligence? Because I think whatever it's defined as, and I'll give you a moment to type those in. I think the real issue is that it's often lacking. People have very limited emotional intelligence. Being aware of emotions, that's a great answer. Being aware of what's happening inside you, great. Being smart about how you're feeling, good answer. Now, how do you define it, Rob?
I think emotional intelligence involves being aware of your impact on other people. So it can be body language, it can be voice and tone, it can be how you're coming across, but it's your emotional impact on the relationships and the people and the environment around you. And that also is an internal state. So it's internal keys unlock external doors. What's going on inside you, and are you self-aware?
Yeah, great. It's so fascinating how unself-aware people are. People just kind of wander around in this daze doing what they've always done. It's extraordinary. And so the power of coaching is to increase self-awareness and emotional intelligence. So we've got a couple of answers here. Emotional intelligence, it's the ability to deal with emotions, process them, and use the information to your and others' advantage. That's great. Thanks, Kylie. Being tuned into what they feel. Fantastic answer, Geraldine. Great. So from this podcast, we kind of understood the need to really work in emotional intelligence, become aware of the impact that your life is having on those around you. And one of the great ways of kind of tapping into emotional intelligence as a coach is understanding body language and the communication process and communication style, seeing what is being said and what is not being said to really get a sense of what's happening inside a person's life. So self-awareness is crucial for both coach and client. And it's something that we've really worked on as a team. Rob was just reminding me of an example recently about building emotional intelligence in our team. We have a process of reviewing each other's coaching all the time because we love the idea of being a company of Australia's finest life coaches and make sure we got really quality coaching. And I kept changing the rules in terms of the review process. I kept raising the bar and changing it quite quickly. And I thought, that'll be fine. Everyone will love that. Everyone will be up with that. But Rob kind of got a sense of the impact that was having on the team. Do you want to say anything more about that Rob?
Oh, I just felt we were aiming for a standard and it got moved, and that would, if that were a parenting style, the children would feel really uneasy because they could never make the grade, and our coaches who were already good were aiming for higher and higher standards. So I thought this is going to be really demotivating.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rob brought that to my attention. So then I gained more emotional intelligence and awareness of the impact of my choices and my decisions were having on others, and was able to make some changes and listen and understand the team and create a better system that wasn't demotivating. So it's crucial for growth. It's crucial for development, for relationships, and crucial for both coach and client to developing their own emotional intelligence and growing it as the coaching process continues. Number 9, Rob.
Yeah, how to be taken seriously. So this goes all the way back to Tracy Tressida in episode 3. Tracy was then a president of the ICF. She's now past president, and this was really a podcast right at the beginning to talk about the validity of coach credentialing. As a company, we're very committed to the ICF and the standards being set by them, and the 11 core competencies. So much so I've just been appointed a director in the Asia Pacific for the ICFA, and Tracy's conversation here was really talking about understanding the coaching industry, understanding that there are 48,000 coaches who belong to the ICF globally. We have, say, 10,000 coaches in Australia. Only 1,300 of those are members of the ICF, and only 300 or 400 of those are actually credentialed. So the coaching industry is full of cowboys. It's full of people who claim to be something, and they may or may not actually be any good. Who knows? You see this on Sunrise recently. There was an article in the Sydney Morning Herald. How do you know the quality of what you're getting? So for Tracy and for us, one of the key issues there is being part of the ICF, so being a member of an international organisation, and then really getting credentialed as part of having a commercial advantage. So I was talking to the CEO of Yellow Edge a couple of weeks ago. That's maybe one of Australia's largest coaching companies, and they have said that being credentialed is absolutely central to being on a government panel. We've certainly found that in landing a contract with the military and with schools. Credentials are a commercial question now, and we would really thoroughly encourage you, if you haven't already signed up to get your credential as an ACC or PCC, to get in and have a go at that.
Yeah, and one of the things I think is obviously it gives your market confidence in your ability, but it also gives you confidence in your ability. If you feel like, okay, well, I'm not just one of the cowboys, I'm not just out there having a crack. I have got some recognised standard that I'm applying, that I'm working towards. So that gives me confidence as a coach to go represent myself well. Then you're much more likely to be taken seriously, because perception is projection. So if you feel like you're not confident or competent, well, that is what your projection will be to the marketplace. So I think that having the credential works two ways. It's good for you and it's good for the market. Great. So one of the things that we've kind of discovered in our journey working with coaches, helping them become great coaches, is that there's really 2 essential components to this piece. So it's not okay just to be a great coach, because what happens if you're a great coach and then no one even knows about you? You could be the best coach in the world but have no ability to form business around that, so you don't ever get to coach anyone. Or you could be fantastic at the selling process and really great at marketing and putting yourself out there, but really a poor coach, so you're always over-promising and under-delivering, and that's not going to go well for you either. So obviously, great coaching means that you need to be developing your ability to grow, to work in business and to develop your coaching skills. And that's kind of the purpose of the Coach Mentor podcast, was to help people get clear about and get skilled in how to do both those things well. So there's we've been developing a program to help people do that because, the common approach, it seems, is anxiety and avoidance. I don't know. And when I first started out, certainly in coaching, I loved coaching, but I sucked at business, and I was just kind of winging it. And there was so much stuff that I didn't understand. And my approach was, well, it'll just sort of take care of itself and sort itself out. Luckily I met Rob early enough on in the journey, and he really, coached and mentored me through a whole lot of the business stuff, and added so much strength to that. And I've been getting some, coaching and mentoring myself in that whole process. But, anxiety about, I don't get this, I don't understand it, and I'm worried about it, but I don't know what to do, so therefore I'll avoid it, is probably the common approach to either one of the weaknesses, being weak as a coach or weak as a business owner. So we put together something that can help, the Accelerate program. That is a picture of a car accelerator, in case you missed it. Not a fancy new dance step. So the Accelerate program, fast track to running a successful coaching business. We've kind of brought it into three things, depending on how fast you'd like to accelerate. So if you only want to go 60 k's an hour, which is sometimes that's the appropriate speed to go, depending on where you're at and what else you're doing, we've kind of condensed all 12 months worth of coach mentoring program into one package. So you can work through that at your own speed, start whenever you like, and take as long or as short as you like. You could do it like the way people watch TV series these days, and just 24-hour slog, smash coffees and do the whole thing in one go if you like, or you could stretch it out. Second is the content, the videos, the instruction, the exercises, plus personalized feedback, plus a group mentoring call once a month. So Accelerate 90 k's an hour. So that's for those that are looking to kind of speed it up a bit more and really want to make a go of this. And then those that are just hell bent on getting out on the highway and opening it up and going flat out. Both Rob and I. Sorry, Rob.
I think that's $179 a month, not.
You're right. Good pickup. Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. So, yeah, the Accelerate 110 k's an hour is one-on-one mentoring, and we can negotiate that, because that comes with both the other levels of acceleration plus, an arrangement around one-on-one mentoring. So we will end the recording there, but Rob and I are going to stay on the line if you want to ask any questions about those programs, or how you could access that, or any other the content that we've shared on today's webinar. It will be recorded and hosted on our website, so you're able to access this again. So yeah,
along with the original one that was 9 points we learned about running a successful coaching business.
Absolutely. So stay on the line. I'll just end the recording now.